Hello and welcome to Sharp Bets and Fantasy Sets, the divisional round. There are 8 teams left, and they all know how to play football, unlike mine and Scott's teams. But I'm sure we'll get into that. Going around the horn, Scott, how we doing?
I'm okay. If you haven't noticed, it's hockey season. So I'm ready for hockey. The Penguins are looking good this year. College basketball. Red Bulls start in a month and a half. So I don't even know if it'll be baseball, but right now I'm going full steam on other sports. That's what's good about being in every sport. You don't linger too long.
As I was putting on my hoodie and grabbing a hat, I contemplated grabbing a Mets hat just for a split second because I was like, I don't want to talk football. But so I'm glad I didn't do the same thing as you. But the one man who does have a team still left to root for, sir, how we doing?
You already know, fellas. I'm wonderful today. It's a good day. Saying like, hey, it was a close game. I'm saying a little bit talk about the heartstrings a little bit, but they got the job done.
I'm sure the last two weeks have taken years off your life.
Yeah. I don't know how much more I could take, but we still here. We still here.
Might not be much longer.
No.
And of course, we have the man who was a spectator throughout the entire playoffs. Tim, how we doing?
And the entire regular season.
Right.
You know, it's XFL time, Nick. We're coming back, baby.
I got my undershirt. I'm not going to lift it up like Sir did, but my undershirt is definitely the Guardians. I think that is ETA 2023, though. I think is for Guardians.
Fine by me.
We got the USFL, right? Coming up.
I think so.
Yeah.
We will not be covering that, but what we will be covering are the divisional round. And Scott, I'm sure you have some shows to kind of, I guess, what's the word? To promote. That's the word.
I know, nothing crazy. Just the Bill Oakley episode from The Simpsons we did Saturday. That should be out in a couple weeks. Other than that, we're just working on getting more guests. I'm ready to get into this debacle that was Sunday. So.
Well, let's get into it. Let's not waste any time. Obviously, the main event, really the only game that was any good. I guess you could say the Cincinnati Vegas game was actually pretty good too, and some iffy calls that kind of went against the Raiders, and of course they lost by a touchdown. It kind of got screwed on a touchdown, so who knows there. But the main event game was really between your guys, the Cowboys and the Niners. So I guess nobody, I don't think, wants to hear from me about the Eagles, but I think we all want to hear. I think we all want to hear from you two about that game because it was an excellent game with a questionable ending, I guess, to say the least.
Right. I mean, I'll start since we want to go from bad to good here. I don't blame the refs one bit. Usually what happens is every time you see a call, especially in the playoffs, you're like, oh, God, that's ticky-tack. Then you saw all the penalties, and there was almost not one where I saw a replay and was like, oh, the ref shouldn't have called that. Like, the Cowboys committed all 14 penalties. You might say one or two were a little questionable, but there was none that were egregious. So as a Cowboy fan, it's just the same thing, same year, same nonsense, no discipline. And I texted you guys off the record here. It's all coaching. If you look at my team is the only team out of us four, maybe you, Nick, maybe, who hasn't gone through a rebuild stage in the last 15 years, right? We could agree on that. Like,
who hasn't? Who hasn't gone? I was like, okay.
Yeah, hasn't. The Jets have had a couple where Tim goes into a season, you know what? Let's just see how we could develop players. Same with you, sir. After the Kaepernick era, there was a couple years like, all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And even the early Alex Smith years. Since Dallas,
there were some bad years.
Since Dallas has had Romo in 06 to Dak, aside from injuries, there has been a chance, outside shot, that this team has been good enough to get to a Super Bowl. Like, there's no arguing there. Defense aside, some years they were bad, but they at least had the offensive talent. And it's the same thing every year, and it has to boil down to coaching. And the reason I say that is they wasted so many years with Romo and Garrett, with Garrett especially, and you let guys slide past you like a Harbaugh was out there, Andy Reid was out there. It's just the same thing with McCarthy now. Now you're wasting Dak's years. And it's just, as a fan, it's infuriating because you see these teams with less talent get to the Super Bowl or even get to an NFC championship. And as a fan, you're just like, there's something missing. And I don't even blame Jerry Jones because I think he's actually a pretty good GM. You look at the teams he's put together, the drafts he's had, you could argue he's drafted better than 30 teams in the NFL the past 5 or 6 years, with the exception of a couple of drafts. I mean, Dak fell into his lap, but he drafts Micah Parsons. He drafts CeeDee Lamb. He drafted even Sean Lee 10 years ago. You know, he took Zach Martin over Manziel, which was a good move, and the Giants took Beckham over Martin. So he's done a good job, but it's just the same stuff, and it sucks when you see, no offense, sir, it sucks when you see a quarterback like a Jimmy Garoppolo, a quarterback like Case Keenum get to an NFC championship, Nick Foles win a Super Bowl, even Colin Kaepernick get to a Super Bowl, Joe Flacco win one. These are guys who aren't significantly better than Dak, even if they are, and weren't as good as Romo during the time. Mark Sanchez. It's frustrating, and I don't know, Nick, you're in our division. Like, what do you think it is? Like, I'd like to hear from another NFC East guy, because I don't know. I think it is coaching. Am I wrong here? Are they snake bitten?
I think it's a bit of everything. I mean, you talk about, they had entirely too many penalties. I think some people would blame coaching for that. I think some people would blame the players for that. There were some questionable calls. The fake punt that worked and then kind of lining up again.
Yes.
I'm not really sure what they were trying to do there. And then the play call at the end of the game was very, very questionable. But, I think it's tough because, we watched the game and they have the experts, and the experts are no better than we are. They're just former players. But, they make good picks and make bad picks. And we looked and we were watching the pre-show, and I know Boomer, Esiason, and another man picked the 49ers, and one person picked the Cowboys. The Cowboys were the favorite, but 2 of the 3 people picked the 49ers, and I think sometimes maybe we overhype teams and think they're better than they might have actually been. And I think that the Cowboys, none of the teams were very good last year. And you have the Eagles who won, 9 games, of course, didn't beat a single team over 500 unless you want to count Trevor Simeon's, Saints. But, the Eagles who were who we thought they were, and I think Dallas overall is a decent team. But when Dak came back from the injury, they just weren't the same. And where I would blame the coaching and I think the bad decision-making, and we saw Troy Aikman kind of comment on it, but, not getting CeeDee Lamb involved didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And same thing with the Eagles with Devontae Smith. And I think that, if a team is trying to win, you have Tony Pollard. I think Tony Pollard and Zeke, when they're both 100% healthy, I would take Tony Pollard over Zeke when they're both 100% healthy. So now you come out after the game and you say that Zeke was actually really hurt. Like, why was Tony Pollard not more involved in the game?
Nick, if you guys recall, during my drafting and the DFS, I said I put Tony Pollard, thinking the coaching staff would utilize him like they did Marion Barber over Julius Jones in the Giants game in 2007. He was non-existent. And that this really puts a smear on Kellen Moore. Because if I'm a coaching staff or an owner, I'm not touching him. Seeing how this team performed on offense some games, I am not touching. I would move on from McCarthy. I would see Jerry, what he needs to do, in my opinion. I know I'm a nobody and it doesn't matter. I've seen this happen. I saw 99-02 and they have Dave Campo, and it was hell. And he put his ego aside and hired a Parcells. And he stepped away for 3 years, and that turned the entire franchise around. And when Parcells left in 2006, they were good till now. They've been a contender till now. 15 years later, he needs to do something like that again with like a Jim Harbaugh. He has to, because it's the same unaccountability. I mean, that's the problem. You saw when Dak got on the press conference after the game, sort of blaming the refs. He since apologized, but that to me is coaching. That's a coach allowing accountability not to be had throughout the entire locker room all year, to where they get on the podium and still don't take accountability for their actions, blame themselves for the penalties. They're getting fined for the refs. To me, that's all coaching. That's just me.
I think I blame. Before you say, I kind of blame a little bit on the fans too, because every time the Cowboys take a loss, they always blame the refs. But when they win, it's we them boys. Like, can you all look in the mirror and say, hey, maybe it's us. You know what I'm saying? Stop blaming the refs. Stop making excuses.
Right, but that has nothing to do with McCarthy and the coaching staff.
No.
Jamar Chase was double covered. Jamar Chase was double covered that entire game versus the Raiders. They managed to get him involved somewhat. Like, you get your best player involved. Troy Aikman even said it's not a difficult game. When T.O. was single covered, like when he was, you throw him the ball. Like, there was soft coverage, and the problem is these guys outsmart themselves. If like the cornerbacks for the Niners are playing 10 yards off, throw a 5-yard curl route and pick up 6 yards. Fuck.
You also had that D line was bringing havoc to Dak all game long.
Another reason.
Like both was in there was in his lunch all day.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the scary thing is, why aren't you bringing a second tight end in then? Why aren't you changing your scheme up? Like, this to me, Dak is good enough to win a Super Bowl. Dak's not the problem here. It's not the offense. The offensive line is a shell of what it was. But you can't tell me this team isn't good enough to win a Super Bowl. They are. Something's missing. I personally, to end this rant, I think it's the coaching staff. That's just me. And I think they need to do what they need to hang on to Dan Quinn as a defensive coordinator. You could let everyone else walk, in my opinion.
No, but you mentioned before about Jerry Jones, like, stepping back. Man, that man, he got too much ego. He ain't going.
But he's done it before.
He's never.
No, I know he's done it before, but as he gets older in age, he even said it himself. He will sell his soul for a Super Bowl. Like, he's not trying to, like, step back. He wants it to be because of him.
And I agree with that. I don't have a problem. I really don't have a problem with Jerry Jones as my owner, as a GM. I don't.
No, I'm just saying. But like the fact that you said to step back and let a hardball take the reins, that ain't gonna happen, bro.
No, but I think that's the only way that you got to flip the curse somehow. There's certain teams that have a stigma. It was this Red Sox and Cubs for 100 years, and something happens where like the luck changes. Something needs to change because as the Cowboys, there's just. You can't write. If I wrote the ways they lost some of these playoff games in a fucking movie script, you wouldn't believe it.
Well, guess what, Scott? You only got fucking like 60 more years to wait, so you'll still be alive for it.
But you would not believe the way they lose, and it's the regular season. Even with like it's mind numbing as a fan, but. You know, it's like kudos to the Niners. They came to play, and if I'm not confident with Kyle Shanahan either, how he called that game. If I'm a Niner fan, Jimmy Garoppolo did everything he could to allow the Cowboys to win that game. That should have been a 41-10 beating. Like it really should. And with confidence,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like coming on late, I was like, yo, come on, Jimmy, just hang on this thing, hang on. But
so, sir, I guess you could take over your happiness because I'm done with my anger.
No. It was just like I said. I was watching the game, and like they got the ball to start the game off, and then they pretty much read it down their throat. They should have kept doing that.
Yeah.
But then I guess Jimmy was like, "Oh, you know, let me try to get my numbers up and like stick with what works." I told you, we're gonna run the ball. We're gonna play defense. And that's what happened for like the first like 3 quarters. And then Jimmy was like, "Oh, let me pass the ball a little bit."
Yeah, at no point did I think and you know your teams, you watch your teams, you know when your team just doesn't have it. When the Niners came out and scored in the first, when Randy Gregory jumps off sides on the first play and they go down and score, I said to my dad, I go, we're gonna go 3 and out and punt. We did. It's just predictable, like the play call, incomplete pass, first down. Here comes a run, loss of 2. Oh shit! I even said, I go, just fucking punt on 3rd down. I don't even want to watch this play. We should have. And it's just the people just flipped the whole half. You're just not one point in that game did I think Dallas was going to win after it was 7-0. Not 1 point. I swear to God.
I'm so happy that there's 3 Jets fans on the podcast this week. Y'all, welcome to my life. This is it. This is what you guys get to look forward to. It's terrific. It's a great time.
I mean, you know, Tim, here's my point with coaching. You had 2 AFC championship games with not a good quarterback. Like, not at all a good quarterback.
Yeah, we just had the perfect team around them. We had both offensive and defensive line and a good running game.
Exactly. So, like, what the fuck? Like, how if Rex Ryan could get there with Mark Sanchez, and Rex Ryan's a pretty good coach, but, like, what are we hiring these guys for that just – it really makes it.
Mike McCarthy, I mean, it's not like Mike McCarthy was a slash. There were a lot of teams that wanted him as a coach. I mean, I feel like you guys hired a guy that you wanted to hire. It's not like you backdoored and a bunch of people got hired and then you were like, oh, I guess we'll take, a Super Bowl winning coach. Like, you hired a guy you wanted to hire.
Nick, he got fleeced. He lied to Jerry Jones and said, he literally admitted he lied. He goes, I went into the office and told him I watched every Dak game the year I was off. Then he got hired and said, of course, I said what I needed to say. Like, what the fuck? How do you get fleeced like that?
Yeah, but I blame the owner. I mean, if I'm looking at a guy who's 4 foot, 4 foot nothing, and I'm hiring him for my basketball team, and he told me he just won the dunk contest, and take him at his word, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But you should have done more digging. Then I blame the owner. If the owner wants to sell his soul. If the owner I sell his soul for a Super Bowl, then he should have done more research on the coach that he hired. He hired a Hall of Fame coach. He took him at his word, and now you're paying the price.
Yeah, but has too much pride. I mean, they held on to Jason Garrett for, I would say,
way too long.
8 years too long. I mean, it really proved that Romo kept Garrett's job intact. I really believe that. And you saw the 1 year he got injured, they were 4-12. That's when they drafted Zeke. And then Dak fell into their lap, and they had that team. So, yeah, he went 12-4 with Dak as a rookie, but I think that was to spite him. I'm sorry. There was a weird stat, when Garrett was coach, they didn't win a game when he was trailing at half or something like that. If I could be wrong, but it was something along those lines. That's insane. That's fucking insane. I'm sorry.
Put a phone call in to Tony, tell him to get out of the booth and put the headset on. And
he
making too much paper in the booth, bro.
He was
John Gruden was also making a lot of paper in the booth, and he got yoinked very easily for more paper.
Well, if you offered Tony $100 million to coach, he definitely would come down. Probably, actually, he might be making that, but he wouldn't make a good coach. He was too good of a quarterback. Those guys don't make good coaches. Speaking
of great decisions in coaching, how about Washington football team's 2013 coaching staff had?
Oh yeah, I saw it. Yeah,
Matt LaFleur and Sean McVay, but they went ahead and they hired Jay Gruden as their head coach when they had those three guys in their. I mean, that's awful.
Yeah, they had nice little coaching staff out there, and
that does not age very well.
No, it's a bad one.
And I swear we're not transitioning this, and we didn't go over this beforehand, but speaking of age, how about Tom Brady is playing in the playoffs this weekend and is older than all three of them?
Yeah, it's insane. It's you can't even write it. Him and LeBron in their respective sports. I mean, what LeBron's even doing in basketball at his age is phenomenal. And Brady is just, we'll never see it again. So stop hating and just appreciate what you're watching as a fan.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm gonna say though, the late Brady years with him in Tampa, I've actually appreciated him more than when he was in New England. I couldn't stand him in New England. Now I'm like, you know what? He's doing all right for himself.
Not me. Now that he's in the NFC, I hate it. Get him out of here.
Now
you know. Yeah, but now you know it wasn't just a system.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Now I know it wasn't just literally Bill. That brother's actually pretty good. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and I think that worked for Peyton Manning too when he went and had to play outdoors in his later. Yeah. You got rid of that stigma of he's a dome quarterback, and it kind of helped his legacy. That does work. Yeah.
Yeah. So next year when Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, I'll appreciate him a little bit more.
How about just, sir, one more thing, and then we'll get into our picks. But how about Kate Adams mentioning? So she was quoted on Good Morning Football. I don't know if you watch the show or not, but this was her point. They're talking about your team. They have a better offense than the Rams, than the Bengals, than the Packers. It's because of Debo. He's absolutely unstoppable. I mean, he's
a monster. You put the ball in his hands. Like the one note when right before he scored, he went to Shanahan and was like, "Yo, give me the ball. I'm scoring." And hey, that's what the man did. Like he's a monster, bro.
Well, Nick, she said that they had. I know I know the show. She said they had a better offense than the Rams, Packers, and who?
The Rams, the Packers, and the Bengals, and it was held really because of Debo.
That's literally one of the worst takes I've ever heard. That's a horrible take.
I think she just said it to prove that she thinks Debo's probably the best offensive player in football.
Maybe. Still bad.
That's why you say it, yeah.
You know what? Might not be too crazy.
I'll settle down, sir.
No, I'm just saying.
Take your hat off. Your head's growing too big now.
But the running game is the Bengals. I mean, San Fran has a balanced offense. They can run the ball. They can pass it.
The more you talk, the less we could see you in the screen. That's how your head is not going to fit through the door to get out of your.
I'm just saying, bro. Like it's not too crazy.
if you put those 4 offenses up and said one had to go, I think 3 of us here would kick the Niners out. That's just me. I think I would. I don't know about you two.
It would be close.
And you know why you would probably kick, because you're going off quarterback name. That's
right.
That's best about it.
Yeah,
you're going off quarterback name.
Yeah,
okay. Stanford has a better running game than those teams. Their receiving core, tight end. I mean,
I will foreshadow my pick, saying the reason why I'm not confident in the Niners at all is because Jimmy's clearly not healthy, and you can hide that against bad teams. But as soon as you face a complete team, you're going to lose unless he's healthy, and I don't think he is. So
he could be 100%. He's still not that good. So
he's not that bad at 100%.
And neither's Kirk Cousins.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Scott!
Man, don't stop comparing my man Jimmy G to Kirk Cousins. Come on, fam.
Nick, real quick, I know you don't want to talk about your Eagles, but I just need to ask you, and as fans of the show hate the Niners as well, how do you feel about your quarterback situation?
Be honest, you take Jimmy G right now as your starting quarterback. Stop it.
I don't know about that.
I think there's pros and cons. Did Jalen Hurts have a horrible playoff game? Yeah, he did. So did Kyler Murray. So did Dak Prescott. There were a lot of quarterbacks that had bad playoff games. So for me, based on what they have and what they need right now, I'm fine with him being the quarterback for another year. What I would do with the 3 first-round picks that they have is I would draft 2 defensive players, and I would use one of those first-round picks and trade for a first-round pick next year. That way you have 2 first-round picks next year. And if he's not good, and if he's not the answer, and they give him another year and he's not any good, then that's fine. You have 2 first-round picks. You could trade up. You can make some moves. The quarterback class for the following year's draft is a hell of a lot better than this coming year's. I would use those, 2 of those first-round picks on defensive guys, but I'm fine with him getting another year. The quarterback from New England, Jones, didn't play well either. So there's a lot of quarterbacks that didn't play well. A lot of people forget that it was his first year. It was his first year, starting fully. And I was watching on Twitter some of the Baldy's breakdowns and different things on the plays. So there were certain plays that were set up where Jalen Reagor was the guy who was in single coverage. He was the guy that was getting man-to-man coverage. There was no option to throw to anybody else on the field because of Tampa Bay's defense. The only guy who he would have an option to throw to is the one guy who couldn't get off the line, in single man-to-man coverage. So he didn't have a lot of options to throw to. He missed a lot of people. I'm more disappointed in the fact that they came out, Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni came out and said that they think Quez Watkins is a good number 2 and they think Jalen Reagor is still their number 3. I mean, they got to move on from Jalen Reagor in the worst possible way. I mean, all the Justin Jefferson jokes aside, I mean, the guy's just not any good at football. So, Devontae Smith, kind of the CeeDee Lamb treatment should have been involved way more. I'm happy with where they're at. I'm proud of what they did. I think at the end of the day, they were outclassed and a year ago, they're not in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And when you have a team that's not good enough to make the playoffs facing a team that's the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, the outcome was the outcome. And I think the game sucked this weekend majority because of the fact that they allowed that. The Super Wildcard weekend wasn't good football. I think we all can agree. There was 2 good games out of the 6. And even those 2 games were really only good. The one game was only good because of a controversial call, and the other game was only good because Jimmy G didn't step on their throats. I mean, that game should have been a blowout too. So, I'm happy with where they're at, and I'm excited to see where they go.
Nick, I would say too is Jalen Hurts, like you mentioned, like Garoppolo, Hurts, and Murray. For Hurts, his ceiling is way higher to me than Garoppolo. What Garoppolo is. That's the reason they drafted a quarterback. Let's be honest. They don't plan on him being the future. If they did, they wouldn't have drafted a quarterback with a 2nd overall pick.
They drafted a quarterback because the best ability is availability until he get hurt. That's the only reason why they drafted a quarterback.
They could say whatever they want. We know the truth. They don't trust him as far as being a great quarterback. So
they don't know because they fear like last year before they drafted Trey Lance. They were rolling with Jimmy, and then all of a sudden he gets hurt. Then they had to go roll out Mullins and Beathard and all them boys. No, they want somebody who can stay on the field, give you 17 games, and not get banged up. And
yeah, I don't even hate Garoppolo, man. I know I come off.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. It's okay.
I really don't. I don't hate him. I just think once again, to put homage on like records as a quarterback, like man, use your eye test here. He's not great. He's the reason they'll not win a Super Bowl over winning a Super Bowl.
Scott, I'll make the perfect observation here. You like Jimmy G, like Sir likes Kirk Cousins.
I don't know if I hate him, man. I'll never bash him like he bashes Kirk Cousins. But like Nick, I'll say this: I think pound for pound, the Eagles had a better year than the Cowboys. I do. I really do. With the
as I mentioned it last week, though, like, the Eagles did what they had to do ending the season. They beat teams that they should have been beat. They should have beat.
Right, but
like pretty much like. But when they played a good team, like they didn't really do much. Like
yeah, but who had them at 9 wins? Who had this coach? They were running this coach out the fucking door after week 5, and the Cowboys, with the talent they had no business getting bumped this quickly. So I think that pound for pound, the Eagles, you could look at as a fan, they're more happy than I am, like excited about where we were. I think this is like it was a disappointment. I really do.
I think they both had impressive regular seasons. I'll say that from an outsider looking in, from having another team winning the division instead of either of your teams, and then it wasn't the Giants' surprise, but. I think you guys did well, but both teams. I think Dallas was much more impressive. Regardless of how much better their roster is, you won more games. You probably should have won against the Niners, to be honest, after how the Niners ended up playing in the second half. It was a bad game.
It shit happens. What are you going to do, right?
What can you do?
I don't know. You could be in the next round like Sir.
Hey,
speaking of the next round, the recap went a little long, but I think it was pretty good content. But now let's get into our divisional picks. And Scott, as you blast the music and run through these standings, which I do not want to hear. One minor note too, and then we'll move on to these divisional. I think it was terrible that a bunch of Eagles fans dressed up as Cowboy fans and proceeded to throw trash at the officials at the end of the game. Eagles fans, stop being terrible. Stop throwing garbage at people. It's classless.
I think we could agree any fan base who throws shit at people is just a scumbag regardless. A few bad apples were in the bunch, but let's get in it. Nick, last week you were on the bottom 1-5. Sir 1-4-1. Tim 2-4. I was 3-3. All in all, not a great week for all of us. Lucky that one of us got 500. And I'm going to waste the time and flash the standings up because it's not a lot of games this postseason, but that's where we're at. Nick, if you want me to go over the games like last week, I can run with it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we're going off of the DraftKings line for all 4 of us, like we did last week. So our first game will be Cincinnati at Tennessee, Saturday, 4:30. Tennessee minus 3.5 coming off their bye and their 1 seed. Over under 47. Since I came first, I'll just start here. I think that often we forget how good the teams on the bye are, and we're only used to fresh eyes and what we see. And when the teams end up traveling, they usually lose, and I think this is going to happen this week. I'm taking Tennessee minus 3.5 at home, 28-24, 24-20. I don't think 3.5 is that big of a number.
In order, I guess I'm up next.
Oh, yeah, you go, Tim. You go.
Damn right we do. Damn it. Scott, I kind of agree with you. I do like Tennessee. I just don't know how close the game is going to be as far as 3.5. I don't like 3.5s at all. So I'm going to go over 47.5. Cincinnati is putting up points. You can double cover Jamar Chase all you want. It's not going to matter. He's going to catch the ball. They're going to feed him. They're going to put up their points. Got King Henry back. Their offense with him on the field considerably better than what we saw towards the end of the season, where they just used their defense to win games. I'm taking over 47.5.
Zick, you mentioned it. The King has returned. You know what I'm saying? Derrick Henry's back. Give me the Titans minus 3.5. Like that. They're getting healthy. They got to buy the rest a little bit. Like I know the Bengals rested their starters at 18, but it's one thing to just rest the quarterback. They were able to rest the whole team. You know, they got AJ Brown, Julio, King Henry. Like it's just they were the number 1 seed for a reason. So give me the Titans minus 3.5.
I'm going to go with the over 47.
All right. 47.5 was it? Oh, it's 47 flat. Yeah, Tim, where'd you get your half point?
Well, when I looked earlier today, it was 47.
Yeah, it was 47.5 when I checked it earlier too. So
we're going with 47 because I wrote that down. So.
Had I known it was 47, I might have taken that so I could tie.
Here we go.
All right, we go to the Saturday night game. San Francisco at Green Bay. Green Bay minus a 6. I think it's going to be freezing, of course, there. Once again, over under 47 I got. I'll just roll with it as well. I don't think this is going to be close. No bias here. I'm not angry. I think that the Packers are going to beat the living crap out of the Niners. I think this is going to be a 8:30 primetime game. Oh, my God, it's over at half. Why don't you watch a show with your wife or girlfriend because it's not worth even watching the second half. So give me the Packers minus 6. I could see this being a 28-10 game, 35-17. So I'll take Packers minus 6. Sorry, sir. Don't hate me.
But he doesn't hate you, sir. Sir, I don't hate you either, but I don't like that Jimmy G is not healthy. You can use whatever smoke or mirrors you want as a Niner fan right now to you got a good defense, you got a great run game. You're going to need to play the perfect game to beat the Packers. And, you know, if they come out and start like they did against the Cowboys and continue doing that, but I can't see it happening. Well, I had it at minus 5.5, but sure, we'll do minus 6. I'm taking Green Bay.
What's the over under? Oh, I'm going last. Sir,
47. 47.
Take it away, sir.
Over 47.
Smart. He doesn't even want to pick.
Over 47.
I'm taking the over in the game too. I wouldn't bet this game if it wasn't because we don't have enough information. So I could say Green Bay or I could say San Francisco. We don't even know if Jimmy G is going to play. I'm sure he's going to play, but how healthy he's going to be playing. I think he's clearly hurt. There's just not enough information. But I think they could put up points even with a Jimmy G at 50%. If that's what he is. So I'm also going to take the over.
All I'm saying is don't disrespect the way this team has been playing. That's all I'm saying. They've been playing like total team ball. The offense, defense, special teams, they've all been playing pretty well. So don't disrespect these boys.
Aaron Rodgers has never beaten the Niners in the playoffs, and I think he does this time. Nick,
I also see that Kyle Shanahan's 9-4 against.
Maybe.
Probably.
What was it? Yeah, I think. Let me look that up while you're going through your rest of your.
The Niners have owned the Green Bay in the postseason the last couple times they played. So
both ways, passing, running the ball, like they beat them both ways. So don't disrespect this team, but we'll see. We'll see what happens Saturday night.
Gun to my head, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers at home. So, Nick, another thing why we all got burned on Philly last week, they said it was going to be a monsoon, and then they flashed to the game and it was sunny.
I know.
So you can't even go by what you hear now. This is what you said. Little information. All right, we'll go to Sunday, the 3 o'clock game. Rams at Tampa Bay, minus 3. Tampa Bay over under 48.5. Tampa Bay lost to the Rams in LA earlier this year. This is the one upset I do like. I am going to take Matt Stafford on the road versus Tom Brady versus Tampa Bay plus 3. And I think the Rams are going to win this game outright. I really do. I think it's so hard to repeat. I know Brady's done it before, but sooner or later, these things have to catch up with him. And the Rams defense with Aaron Donald, you always talk about making Brady uncomfortable. This is the defense that could make him really uncomfortable. Give me the Rams plus 3, and I do think they win this outright, though. But I'll take the plus 3 to be safe.
I believe a happy Odell Beckham is a good Odell Beckham. Imagine getting him back to his Giants form. That's what we're starting to see. If you have him and Cooper Kupp on either side of the field and a respectable running game, now that Cam Akers is back, Matt Stafford, playoff Matt, oh my God, he won a playoff game, so you can get that fucking shenanigans out of the window. Tom Brady, like Scott said, the defensive front from the Rams is good. I don't know. I'm going with Scott. I'm taking them plus 3. In the back of my mind, I really, really want them to win the game outright because I still have them getting to the Super Bowl. So My pick is still alive, but let's hope it continues another week.
I want to lean toward, because like it's hard betting against Tom Brady in the playoffs. Like it's really like, I don't know if y'all know this, but the brother's good in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, but I'm gonna go over 48.5 just because both these teams can put some points on the board. So give me over 48.5.
And you can't tie.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Again, a game that I wouldn't bet right now, but for the sake of the show, we have to bet. There's a lot of injuries that I think, we still need to figure out. Ryan Jensen for the Buccaneers, Tristan Wirfs, were not participants in practice. We saw, Tristan Wirfs get hurt in the Eagles game. They come back out in a bizarre, and he couldn't stand on his foot and was falling on the field. They clearly didn't need him to beat the Eagles. I think we all knew that, but some weird stuff going on. All that to say, and we know that the Rams beat Tampa pretty handedly the last time they played, and that was in LA. But I'm going to take the Bucs at whatever the line is. I think, what'd you say, 3.5?
3. Three.
3. I'm taking the Bucs. I think Brady's got his number. Brady's going back to the championship game, and I'm not going to foreshadow my next pick, but Brady's going back to the championship game.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. Also, a Jensen injury makes you wonder if the Antonio Brown thing was right about the injury, sending people back out there. Yeah. All right, last game of the week. All right, which I think is the best game of the week as far as the young stars. Buffalo at Kansas City. I have Kansas City at a -2.5, over under at 54. I'm taking Kansas City. I said last week that I don't think there's going to be a team that could even touch them. -2.5, a field goal game. I think Mahomes is just, in the blink of an eye, this team they're down 7-0 last week. If you turn the TV off and on, it's 21-7. It was insane what they do. I think that the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl, so I'm taking them -2.5.
Scott, I closed my bar tab out. Pittsburgh was up 7-0.
Right.
I got to my house, 21-7. I said, okay. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It was a 5-minute drive. It was crazy. They put up 21 points. With that being said, yeah, KC -2.5. I mean, to be honest, Buffalo played their Super Bowl last week. I don't know how you can get that up for a game twice in a row. I know it's a playoffs. It's still a young team. Maybe they got fire and fight. I can't see it happening. I got KC.
And I don't know about y'all, but the Bills play. You said the perfect game. They were the first team to go 7 drives with each a touchdown every drive. They didn't punch. They didn't kick no field goal. So you got that offense clicking. You give me Patrick Mahomes on the other side, and give me the over 53.5. Both these teams going to light up the scoreboard.
I think the game opened at -2 for Buffalo, which I think tells you everything that the world thinks about Buffalo. I'm going to take Buffalo.
All right. Well, that's the games, man. So
betting against the world, Nick. Proud of you.
Yeah,
well,
I did that last week with the Niners because everyone was picking them. So I said Dallas is the must. They were all right. Dallas was the only home team to lose all weekend. Fucking jerk.
Well, to Tim's point, though, I mean, he's got money on the teams that he predicted for the Super Bowl. But my Super Bowl prediction at the beginning of the year was Green Bay and Buffalo, so I can't really go back on it now. I feel like I'm pot committed at this point. So
yeah, mine was Buffalo and LA, and I just kicked Buffalo to the curb real quick.
Hey, that's why they make hedges.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, I mean, I'll segue to the DFS, but you might as well kick it off as the reigning defending DFS champ for this week.
Right.
Man,
so,
even a broken clock is right 2 times a day. Yeah, go ahead.
Damn blind squirrel finding another nut.
You know what I'm saying? Talking about it.
We
Proud
get
of
it.
you, Scott.
I suck it. We get it. I get it. I suck at this. We get it. I saved my best for the playoffs. That was my plan. Played possum to the playoffs. It's easier. There's less people to pick from, right? All right, so last week I rode with Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. I'm doing the same this week. I'm going to go with Mahomes 7,300 as a QB. I'm also going to add Aaron Jones 6,800 for the Packers, Mixon 6,800 for the Bengals. I'll pair Tyreek Hill 6,600 along with Byron Pringle 4,200 with Mahomes. Beckham as my third receiver, 5,300. I'm also going to go with Kelsey, 6,500 at tight end with Mahomes. You're asking how I have so much money to do all this. Well, I'm taking my flex as Uzoma, the tight end for the Rams at 3,400. And defense, give me LA, 3,400 as well. So I'm laying heavy on the Chiefs this week again.
Well, I hope it doesn't work out for you, Scott. But we do have a couple of the same picks. I'll just preface that by saying who they are. I've got Kelsey in a tight end spot. It's Travis Kelsey. And I've got Odell Beckham because why I have Odell Beckham? I'm going back to the well. I got Matthew Stafford, a quarterback, 6,200 against Tampa. I really think it's his time. I think he's going to have a big game. Tampa's front seven on defense is good against the run. I think they're going to have to chuck the ball to win the game. So I've got Stafford. I've got Odell. I'm taking Cooper Kupp too at 8,600. He's Cooper Kupp. At running back, I'm going to go with one of the two starters in KC, whether it's CEH if he's healthy at 5,200, or whether it's McKinnon at I think he's 48. Yeah, 4,800. One of those two guys is going to be in my lineup. It just depends on which one's healthy by game time. Speaking of another cheap, only guy who's healthy somewhere, I'll take Keyshawn Vaughn at 4,700 as a cheap option. If anyone else from that game gets involved in a running back, whether it's Leonard coming back or Ronald Jones, we'll switch it up. But for right now, Keyshawn Vaughn at 4,700 is the pick for me. Wide receiver, I won't call him wide receiver 3, but just because he's the last one I named, Jamar Chase, 7,100 against Tennessee. Yeah, he's Jamar Chase. How I did that, in the words of Scott, give me Mecole Hardman at 30, well, I don't know, 39, 34. I can't read my own handwriting. Listen, Pringle had a big game last week with 2 touchdowns. The same thing could happen this week for the other guy on the field. That's just what it is. And defense, sir, I believe your 49ers are the cheapest defense. So they're in my lineup.
It's like our lineups are pretty similar, oh boy. You know what I'm saying? Pretty similar.
Fuck it then. I just better leave.
But as I said, at defense, again, I also went with the cheapest defense. I don't know why they're the cheapest defense, but whatever. It's all right. I'll put them in the lineup. At quarterback, give me Matthew Stafford, 6,200. Why not? You know, he's got to throw the ball. Paired him with Cooper Kupp as well, and Mr. Beckham. Also, wide receiver 3, Jamar Chase as well. Because
did you copy my shit?
No, not really. Because this is where it differentiates. At wide receiver 3, even though he's not really wide receiver 3, give me Brandon Ayuk, my homie, at 5,200. But he's been getting open. You know what I'm saying? Like, Debo's been doing, like, between the backfield and the receiver. But, you know, Ayuk's just out there making plays, getting open. Running back, give me Eli Mitchell at 5,800. You know what I'm saying? Just, again, Sanford runs the ball, so put the ball in his hands. RB2, give me Devin Singletary at 5,900. Like, he's been balling too. And tight end, give me CJ, who's your mama, whatever his name is, 3,400. Cheap option. And I believe that's the squad, I believe.
Yeah, I'd wait on mine again just because of injuries, but for the lineup that I have, I'll take Tom Brady 6,800. I'll take Elijah Mitchell 5,800. I'll take Keyshawn Vaughn 4,700. You know, that's where the injuries kind of come in. We'll see who is healthy for Tampa Bay's running backs. Wide receivers, I'll take Gabriel Davis at 4,600. Seems to be getting some points for the price that we're paying for him, 4,600. Get some points. Mike Evans, 6,800. Tyreek Hill, 6,600. Rob Gronkowski, 5,800. Odell Beckham, 5,300. And the Tampa Bay Bucks defense, 3,100. So.
Good luck, everyone.
Sir, I
guess
hope your lineup does very well.
What's up?
I hope your lineup does very well.
I hope every one of my prop bets for this weekend doesn't lose by 1 or 2 legs. I mean, that was just a brutal weekend for prop bets, at least for me.
In case anyone was wondering, I immediately canceled my trip to Lambeau Field on Monday morning when the Cowboys lost.
I'm surprised you even waited.
Full refund. You know, so I told you they're gonna win when I'm 60. Half the people I love will be dead, and I'll have one day of happiness after 55 years of misery. And I'll sit back and wonder, was it really worth even caring all these years? The only thing that keeps me going is the Nickelodeon time capsule is opening in 20 years. That's it. It's gonna be freezing this weekend too. Here in the
Scott, I'm gonna need you to live for something else. I hate to break it to you. That's not worth it, pal.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
about
it's going to be cold out in
time
Lambeau. The
capsule.
best spot to watch the game is sitting on the couch with a beer in hand.
Right. It just sucks.
I was watching the Pats Bills game, and man, that's one thing. You got to go out to negative 10 degrees as, like, say, a Patriots fan and watch your team get the brake speed off of them. Nah, fam.
But
absolutely.
if you win, it's worth it.
Yeah, when you win, you're like, yeah, let's go. When you ain't got no chance,
Yeah, that was bad. That would have been bad.
Should not be me.
you know what I'm saying? They just sitting out there like,